everyone! Today's tutorial is for this beret that I am currently wearing that also has a little stem and leaf on it so it looks like an apple. I was inspired by one of my earlier makes, this mini crochet apple. I'll go ahead and link that here in the video if you'd like to make this one instead. But I was thinking it would be really cute to make berets that have sort of a fruit theme. So you can make them in a whole host of colors. You can see I have a big stack of them here. And the base beret works up super quickly, so you don't have to put the stem or the leaf on it if you just want the regular beret for a hat. So let's go ahead and dive right in with all the materials you're gonna need to make this beret. Alright, so the materials you're going to need for this beret are worsted weight yarn in your main color. For me, I'm making an apple, so I'm using this sort of hot red color. The other two colors that we're going to need are green, so I'm using this sort of key lime color here for my leaf. And then we're also going to need a brown. I have this sort of darker chocolate brown that I'm using for my stem. All right, so before we get started, I wanted to point out it's important on this piece, since it's a worn item, that we should check our gauge. So you can see I've got a little 5x10 double crochet square here, and the beret calls for a larger sized crochet hook. So to make sure that your beret isn't too big or too small, I highly recommend using the same yarn that you're going to be using for your beret and starting with my recommended hook size, which is a 5.5. So once you've finished crocheting your swatch, it needs to measure 3 by 3 inches. If your swatch ends up being bigger, you need to size down your hook. You want this to be the same size as mine, or your beret is going to be too big or too small. So I highly recommend checking your gauge. If you're not really worried about it, you can just dive right in, but a cautionary tale, your beret may be too big or maybe too small. You're also going to need this standard crochet amigurumi type thing, so a pair of scissors, stitch marker, tapestry needles, all of that good stuff. So I wanted to point out something that I've started doing to make it a little easier to navigate my patterns. If you are on desktop and you scroll along the seek bar, you'll see I've added chapters for basically every single round of my pattern. You can also access them by clicking more in the description and scrolling down and clicking View All next to chapters. That will make it so you can access the chapters over on the right hand and go forward or backwards at your own pace inside of each pattern. That way, if I'm working too quickly or working too slowly, you can skip ahead or behind in the pattern as you need. If you're watching my video on mobile, you can do the same thing. All you'll need to do is click the video itself and then pull up the seek bar. And then from there, you can scroll. It's a little harder to do, but you can scroll to chapters. If you'd like to view all the chapters, you can click right here once you stop scrolling and seeking, and it'll pull up a separate pane where you can view the chapters individually, just like you would on desktop. Additionally, you can click More to open up the video description, and then scroll down and click View All on chapters, just like on desktop. So I hope that helps you navigate the patterns a little easier. Alright, so we're ready to start in on round 1. We need to form a magic ring first. Alright, so now that I have my magic ring formed, I'm going to chain 3 stitches, and I've already chained 1 stitch here because that's how we start our magic ring. So I'll chain 2 more, which gives me 3. And then I'm going to place another 11 double crochet stitches inside of this magic ring. This first chain 3 here and throughout the rest of the pattern serves as our first double crochet. So technically I have 1 double crochet already in my magic ring. Here's my second, and I'm just going to keep adding them until I have 12 total. Alright, when you have all 12 of your double crochet stitches inside of your magic ring, we can pull the tail to close off round 1. And I like to pull pretty tight on that tail. And to end this round and every round following, we're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 that we made at the beginning of the round. So if you count up 1, 2, 3, we'll go through both sides of that top chain and then just slip stitch it closed. So yarn over draw through, and then draw through again to close off that round. All right, so that's round 1 done. Round 2, just like every round that we're going to do, we'll start with a chain 3. And that serves as our first double crochet stitch. And in this round, we're going to be increasing in each stitch, so placing 2 double crochet stitches in every stitch all the way around. So we've got our first one already placed here. We need to make a second double crochet stitch in that same space that our chain is coming out of. So we'll yarn over, go through that same stitch, and yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2, yarn over and draw through the remaining 2. You can see that is 2 double crochet stitches coming out of the top of that chain 3 from the previous round. We're going to keep adding 2 double crochet stitches to every stitch all the way around. Alright, so I've just made my last double crochet stitch for round 2 here, and I wanted to point out something that gets me in trouble a lot whenever I'm working with any stitch that's larger than a single crochet while working in the round. This slip stitch that we made to close off the last round looks so very much like a stitch, but you can't put anything in that slip stitch or you're going to add an extra increase to every round, and it's going to make your beret sort of warp or ruffle a little bit. So I like to keep track of the amount of stitches that I have by counting the posts and double checking that I am not in fact supposed to work in this stitch. But another really good giveaway is if you look, that chain's sort of coming out of that stitch too. So I know that was the slip stitch from the last round and I don't need to work in it. So I'm going to go ahead and close the round by counting up to the top of that chain 3 and slip stitching to close off this round. All right, and that is round 2 done. Round 3 will start the same way by chaining 3. And that serves as our first double crochet, and we need to increase in the next double crochet stitch. So we're going to place 2 double crochet stitches in the next stitch of the round, since this is our first double crochet stitch. And then we're going to keep repeating this pattern of 1 double crochet stitch in the next stitch of the round, increase in the second stitch. So we're going to go back and forth between 1 double crochet stitch, 1 double crochet increase. We'll keep repeating that pattern all the way around for round 3. Alright, so I just worked my last increase. I'm ready to close this round off by again slip stitching to the top of that chain 1, which is our first double crochet stitch. And that closes off round 3. Then for round 4, I'm going to chain another 3 stitches. Then I'm going to place 1 double crochet stitch in the next stitch. So there's 1, 2 double crochet stitches, and then in the next stitch after that I'm going to increase. Alright, right, so now that I have that increase, I'm going to start repeating that pattern of 1 double crochet stitch, 1 double crochet stitch, increase all the way around. So you can see we're adding an additional double crochet stitch before we increase for each round. So we've got 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, increase. And we're going to repeat this pattern of 2 double crochet increase until we get to the end of this round. Alright, so I just finished my last increase, and I'm going to close the round off just like I have the last couple of rounds by slip stitching to the top of that chain 3 that I used to start this round. And we're ready for round 5, so we'll start by chaining 3. Then we're going to put 1 double crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches, so 1 double crochet here, a second double crochet here, and then we're going to increase and then we're going to repeat the pattern of a double crochet in the next 3 stitches and then an increase in that 4th stitch. So I will see you back here whenever we are ready to close off the end of this round. Again, that's just 3 double crochet stitches and then an increase. Alright, so I just made my last increase and I'm ready to close off round 5. So I'm going to slip stitch the top of that chain 3. And I'm ready to start in on round 6, where we're going to begin again with a chain 3. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches before we increase. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, last one, and then an increase. And I also wanted to point out, you may have noticed that when we increase, we're going to be increasing in the second increase from the last round. So if you look, you can see sort of this little V sort of opening up here. I find that's a good way to check that I'm working in the correct stitch and I haven't skipped anything or I haven't missed my pattern. So I'm going to add that increase in that second stitch of the increase in the previous round. For folks who like to move really quickly like I do and don't necessarily want to count their stitches, that's what I tend to do. Alright, and then we're ready to continue that pattern, adding another double crochet from the last round. So double crochet in the next 4 stitches and then an increase. So 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3, and 4. And then we're going to increase. And we're going to keep repeating that pattern until we are all the way around. So I'll see you back here whenever I get to the end of this round and I'm ready to close off. Alright, so I've just made my last increase from round 6. I'm ready to close this round off. Again, I'm going to slip stitch the top of that chain 3. And then to start round 7, I'll chain 3 more stitches. Then we're going to put 1 double crochet stitch in the next 4 stitches. And follow that with an increase. Then we're going to repeat that pattern of 5 double crochet stitches and then a double crochet increase. So that's 1 double crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches. And an increase. And we'll repeat that pattern all the way around for this round. So again, I'll see you back here when we're ready to close the round off and continue on. Alright, I'm back and I just made my last increase here in round 7. I'm going to slip stitch the top of that chain 3 to close. And then round 8 is our last increase round. So I'll go ahead and start by chaining 3. Then I'm going to put 1 double crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches. Then I'm going to increase. And then I'm going to put 1 double crochet stitch in the next 6 stitches and then increase in that 7th stitch. So 1 double crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then an increase. And then just like the last couple of rounds, we'll continue working that pattern until we're all the way around. So I'll catch you back here whenever I get to the end of round 8. Alright, so I just did the last increase here in round 8. I'm ready to close off by, again, slip stitching to the top of that chain 3. And then for rounds 9 through 12, I'm going to just add 1 double crochet stitch to each stitch all the way around. But if you want a slouchier beret, you may add a few extra rounds of double crochet here. I like 4 because I don't want my beret to be too slouchy, especially since I have the leaf and stem attachment going on. So I'm just going to add 4 rounds of double crochet. So I will see you back here whenever I have finished round 12 and I'm ready to start decreasing and adding the brim. Alright, so I have just finished that 4th round of just 1 double crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. You can see my beret is starting to kind of cup inwards, which is what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch the top of that chain 3 here at the end of round 12. And then we're ready to start round 13, which is our first decrease round. So we're going to chain 3 stitches. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet stitch in the next stitch of the round. And then we're going to do a double crochet 2 together to decrease. So to do that, we're going to yarn over, go through our next stitch, yarn over and draw up through that stitch, and then yarn over and draw through 2 of the loops on our hook. And then we're going to repeat that exact process in the next stitch of the round. So again, wrap our yarn around our hook, go through our next stitch, yarn over and draw up, then yarn over and draw through 2. And then with the 3 loops remaining on our hook, we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3 to do a double crochet 2 together. Then we're going to repeat that pattern of 1 double crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of our round, and then a double crochet 2 together. So let's work this repetition again one more time. So 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, and then a double crochet 2 together. So wrap our yarn, go through our next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2, then repeat in the next stitch. So wrap, go through our next stitch, yarn over and draw up, and yarn over and draw through 2. And then to finish that, we'll yarn over and draw through all 3. So we're going to continue that pattern all the way around until we get to the end of the round. So I'll see you whenever I have finished round 13 and we're ready to start in on round 14. Alright, so I just made my last double crochet 2 together here from round 13. And I'm ready to close off that round again by slip stitching to the top of that chain 3. And I'm ready to start in our round 14. We're going to chain 3 stitches, and then we're going to start right off the bat with a double crochet 2 together. So we'll go through our next stitch, and then repeat. Then we're going to repeat the pattern of 1 double crochet 2 together, all the way around for this round. So double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet 2 together. So just like last round, I'll see you back here whenever I have finished repeating that pattern all the way around. Alright, so I just did my last double crochet 2 together for round 14, and I'm ready to start in on round 15, so let's slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. And then for round 15, we're switching to single crochet stitches. So we're going to start by chaining 1 stitch, and I'm going to start marking this chain 1, because it's harder to see than that chain 3. I want to make sure I don't miss it, so chain 1 and then mark that chain 1. And then we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3 single crochet, and then we're going to do a single crochet decrease. So we'll go through our next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, then go through the next stitch, yarn under and draw up a loop, and then just like when we double crochet 2 together, we'll yarn over and draw through those 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to repeat the pattern of 4 single crochet stitches and then a decrease. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then decrease. We're going to keep repeating that pattern until we're back to our stitch marker. So I'll see you whenever I get to the other side of this round. Alright, so I just did my last single crochet decrease here of round 15. So we need to place 1 single crochet stitch in that final slip stitch that we made from round 14. So we're going to be adding an extra single crochet stitch here. So 1 single crochet. And then we're going to continue single crocheting around in every stitch here for round 15. So we'll take our marker out and add a single crochet stitch where that marker just was. And I'm going to remark that stitch. And then we're going to just continue putting 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. So I'll see you back at the end of this round when we're ready to fasten off and weave our tails in. So I just put my last single crochet stitch in the 41st stitch of this round, and I'm ready to go ahead and fasten off the beret. So to do that, I'm going to take the stitch marker out, and I'm going to slip stitch in the stitch that it just was in. And then I'm going to cut a long tail with my working yarn here. And then draw the working yarn through by pulling the loop on my hook until the yarn passes through that slip stitch that I made. And then I'm going to tighten that slip stitch down by pulling the tail until it tightens all the way around. Then I'm going to weave in both of my ends, the one from my magic ring tail and the one from the brim of the beret that I just finished. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my yarn needle and get these woven in. So I'm going to start by weaving in the magic ring tail. I like to weave the magic ring tail in if this is an article of clothing, just to make sure it's extra secure. So I'm going to go ahead, thread my tapestry needle here with the magic ring's tail. I'm going to give that magic ring one final real tight tug. And then I'm going to tie a surface knot here on the inside of the hat. So I'm going to lay my yarn over the surface of my work, the inside of the hat. Catch a little of that last double crochet stitch from the magic ring, and then sew up through that loop. Let me get a little closer so you can see it a little easier. So I'm sewing through that last double crochet, and then up through the loop on the surface of the beret. And then by pulling, that loop that I've made is going to fasten around the yarn, the tail. I'll tighten that really nicely. And then I'm just going to weave it in by sewing it through some of the fabric of the hat. Then I can unthread and trim close to the surface of my work to weave that tail in. Then we're going to do the same thing here on the tail left over from the brim. So we'll go ahead and get that threaded through the eye of our needle as well. And then we already have a knot tied here with the slip stitch that we tied. I'm going to go ahead and sew right underneath that slip stitch. I'm just going to push my needle from front to back to send that tail to the inside. I'm going to flip the beret over so I can access the inside of the hat, and then just weave this in the same way I wove in the magic ring tail. Alright, once you've got that tail woven in, we'll unthread our tapestry needle, and just like the magic ring tail, we'll give it a snip. And that is the beret portion of the hat complete. So let's move on to the stem and the leaf attachment. Alright, so next up is the leaf for the fruit beret, and we're going to start by tying a slip knot and chaining. And we need to chain 6 stitches to start the leaf. And then when we have all 6 of those stitches chained, we're going to start in the second chain from our hook. Remember, we don't count the loop on our hook as a stitch. So in that second chain, we're going to work a slip stitch. Then in the next chain, we're going to add a single crochet stitch. In the chain right after, we'll add a half double crochet, so we'll wrap our yarn around our hook. Go through that next chain, yarn under and draw up a loop, then yarn over and draw through all 3. In the second to last chain, we're going to put a half double crochet and a double crochet. So a half double crochet, and then a double crochet, and then in this last chain, which is our slip knot that we tied to start chaining, we're going to put 3 double crochet on this side and then sort of flip around and put the other 3 on the other side of the chain. So we'll start by putting 3 double crochet stitches on this side, we'll flip around and add the other double crochet stitches, the other 3 of them, to this side of the chain over here. I also like to work the tail from the slip knot in at this point, so I'm going to go through the other side of that chain and then lay the tail from the slip knot over my hook. And here's my 4th, 5th, and 6th. So 3 and 3 double crochet stitches. Then we're going to start working up the other side of the chain, sort of in reverse order of what we did down this side of the chain. So in the next chain, we're going to put 1 double crochet and then 1 half double crochet. So 1 double crochet in the next chain, and then a half double crochet in that same space. In the next chain, we're going to put a half double crochet, then a single crochet, and then a slip stitch. And then to close off the top of the leaf, we're going to put a single crochet stitch in the first slip stitch that we made. So I'll go to the other side of the chain, push through that slip stitch, and then make a single crochet stitch. And then we're ready to start round 2. And we're going to start round 2 by chaining 2 stitches. And then we're going to put a second single crochet stitch in that slip stitch that we ended the round by single crocheting in. So there's going to be 2 single crochet stitches going into that stitch. So here's that first single crochet stitch. So my chain 2 and then a single crochet. Then we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that should take us to those double crochet stitches that we made around on the last round. And we're going to put an increase in the next 6 stitches of our leaf. So 2 single crochet stitches in the next 6 stitches of our leaf. Alright, so there are my 6 increases. Next, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 6 stitches of our leaf. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the space underneath that chain 2 that we made to start this round. So we'll go underneath the space of that chain 2 and single crochet. And that sets us up for round 3. So round 3, we're going to chain another 2 stitches. And again, in that same chain 2 space from the last round, we're going to put another single crochet stitch. So you can see I have 2 single crochet connected by a chain 2 at the top of my leaf. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to repeat the pattern of 1 single crochet increase around the bottom of the leaf here. So 1 single crochet increase. We'll do that 6 times total. 1 increase, 1 increase. Here's my 4th repetition. And my last repeat, 1 increase. Then we're going to single crochet in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in that chain 2 space. And that ends round 3. And then for round 4, we'll start again by chaining 2, putting a single crochet stitch in that chain 2 space, and then single crocheting in the next 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we're going to repeat the pattern of 2 single crochet increase 3 times, which is going to take us to the middle or bottom of the leaf. So 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, increase. There's 1 repetition. 1, 1, increase. Here's my second, and then 1 more. 1, 1, increase. So that takes us to the center of the bottom of the leaf. We're going to slip stitch in the next stitch, and then leave the rest of the stitches of this round unworked. And we'll fasten off by cutting a tail that's long enough for us to sew with, and pulling that slip stitch until the tail we cut goes all the way through, and then tightening that slip stitch down. I also wove the slip knot tail in as I worked, so I'm going to trim that at this point. And then I'm going to set this leaf aside until we get to the assembly section. So let's move on to how to make the stem next. Alright, so last up we're going to make the stem. We're going to be using this dark brown yarn, and we're going to start with another magic ring. And then for round 1 we're going to put 6 single crochet stitches inside of the magic ring. Once we get to the end of those 6 stitches, we can pull the tail of the magic ring. So for rounds 2 through 5, we're just going to put 1 single crochet stitch in each of the 6 stitches we just made in round 1. So I'll see you back here whenever I get to the end of round 5 and we are ready to fasten off. Alright, so I am at the end of round 5 and I'm going to slip stitch in the first stitch of the round to fasten off. And then I'm going to reserve a long tail to sew the stem onto the top of the beret. So I'll cut my working yarn and then pull through that slip stitch and tighten down. Then I'm also going to trim this magic ring tail here at the very top of the stem, just to keep it out of my way. And that is the stem complete. So let's go ahead and get the stem and the leaf attached to the top of our beret. So we'll start by attaching the stem, and it's going to go dead center right where that magic ring is on the top and outside of our beret. So go ahead and get the brown tail from the stem threaded through the eye of your tapestry needle. And then I'm going to just sew down through the fabric of the beret. And I can see, be careful not to accidentally sew the layers of your beret closed or you won't be able to wear it as a hat. And I'm just going to keep working around, coming back up through the fabric of the stem and sewing through each of the 6 stitches of the stem as I go. Alright, so I have sewn through all 6 of those stitches to attach the stem. So I'm going to tie a surface knot, and I'm going to tie it so that the knot is here on the stem itself. So I'm going to loop the yarn around on the surface of the stem, then grab some of the fabric of the stem and go up through that loop that I just tied, and then pull, and then that loop I made is going to wrap itself around and tighten into a knot. And then I weave the stem in by sewing the tail from the stem by sewing it inside of the stem itself. And I'm going to do that a couple of times because, again, this is a piece of clothing and I want to make sure that my tails are all woven in really, really well. So once it's woven in, you can unthread your tapestry needle and trim. And that gets the stem attached to the top of the hat. Then last, we need to get the leaf attached. And I like to attach my leaf so it sort of covers up that chain 3 jog that we have whenever we work in the round with double crochet. You don't need to do this, of course. You can attach it pretty much anywhere as long as it's touching the stem. But I like to kind of sit it so it butts up right to where the stem is. Then I'm going to thread my tapestry needle with the green tail left over from the leaf. And then to sew the leaf, I start by taking the green and I run it through some of the stitches of the hat until I'm over at the furthest corner, because we're going to sew straight along the bottom edge to attach it. So just kind of run it through some of these stitches and then be really careful not to grab the second layer of fabric of your hat while you do this, until it's about where the edge of the leaf is. So I'll just pull, and that brings that tail over to where I need it to be for my beginning to sew. And you can see if you weave it in on the insides of those stitches, it doesn't leave a green tail on the inside of your hat. Alright, so once you've got your tail where you want it to be, we're going to go ahead and attach the leaf by whip stitching through each of the stitches from this last round that we made and some of the fabric of the hat. So I'm just going to go through each of those stitches, just whip stitching this leaf on, and then pulling those whip stitches pretty tight so they sort of hide . Alright, so I have the bottom of the leaf attached all the way around the bottom side, and I'm ready to fasten off. So we're going to again tie another surface knot here on the fabric of the leaf itself. So we'll make a little loop out of the green tail that we've been working with here. And then we're going to sew into some of the fabric of the leaf and then up through that loop. And then pull, which is going to make that loop wrap itself around our working yarn. And then I like to weave this in on the inside of the single crochet stitches along the leaf here. So I'm just going to run my needle through some of the fabric of those stitches. And again, because it's a worn piece of fabric, I'm going to be really careful with my end and weave it in a second time, going back the other direction. Alright, once it's woven in, you can unthread your tapestry needle and give it a trim. And just like that, your fruit beret is complete. So I hope that you have enjoyed this pattern. As always, it is such an honor if you would consider subscribing to my channel, because a subscription tells me that you like what I do and you'd like to see more. And if you'd like to share your fruit beret with me on social, I have an Instagram. If you want to tag me after making your own, I'd love to see your work. Okay, as always, thanks for watching and happy crafting.